I get asked all the time, how hard is it to buy or sell property if I'm not actually there on the island? And we're going to talk about that up next. Hey, what's going on, friends? Dylan Nonaka here with the Buy Big Island video blog, and today we're going to talk about buying or selling property if you're not here on the island. And the answer is, can you do it? Absolutely. And should it be easy or hard? It should be easy. It's not always easy, depending on your level of using technology, and definitely the level that your realtor is at in the use of technology, because it makes it a lot easier if you're comfortable with that and your realtor is using the best tools possible. So a couple of situations that can lead you to need to be able to sell property while you're not here is, maybe if you're moving here and you want to close on a house before you actually get here, you're going to need to go through that purchase process prior to getting here. You may be living somewhere else on a different island or in the mainland, and you own a property here that you now want to sell, and you don't want to come back to do that. And so that's another situation where we can help you sell that property without having to be here. And then you may be needing to move away, so you have to sell the property. You moved, and then now you got to sell the property, or hasn't closed yet after you left, and you got to go through that sales process while you're gone. And so that's another situation where you may need to do this. So at the end of the day, all of the documents that need to be signed during the escrow process, during the contract process, even the listing process, can be done electronically. And there's actually a paragraph in the purchase contract that verifies that both parties agree to use electronic signatures in the process of the sale, and so you do have to agree to that. But everything can be signed electronically until you get right up to the end, when you have to sign closing documents, whether it be the deed or mortgage documents. There are documents that need to be notarized, so at that point you will need to sign in person, but you don't actually have to do it here. Many of our escrow companies have national offices, so in most cities and areas around the US, they may have a branch office that you can go into, or if you want it to be even more convenient, they will hire a mobile notary to come to wherever you are, your office or your home, with your spouse and whoever else needs to sign those documents, and then they will FedEx them back to the escrow company here, which will then take them to the Bureau of Conveyances and get them recorded at closing. And that's a consideration during the sales process, is if that's going to be the case and you are going to be remote, then you're going to have to plan on building that into your timeline, because they're going to have to get those documents back 2 days prior to the actual close date. And in some cases, when you're doing a mortgage, you need to actually sign those documents a couple of days prior to the loan actually funding, and the loan has to fund a couple of days prior to the property actually closing. So that can back up your timeline 4, 5, 6 days, and then that doesn't count weekends. So you really have to think about that and be on top of that timeline to make sure you do close on time if signing remotely is necessary. It can be complicated if you're in another country, because then you will have to go into a US embassy in order to sign your closing documents. But we can work with you on that and coordinate that. It's a little bit more difficult, but it can be done. So the short answer is, it's definitely possible to buy or sell property and not be here through the electronic signatures process. And there's lots of different tools that you can use to do that. Some are easier to use than others. And you just want to make sure that you're working with somebody who has access to those things, who utilizes those things, and makes it easy on you, because you don't want to be printing out 14-page purchase contracts and then hand signing them and then having to scan them and then email them back. And it's just a long process, and that's even more complicated than just going into your email and clicking and signing. So it should be easy. It's not always easy, but we can definitely work with you through that process. And pretty much I've worked with clients across the entire spectrum, whether they're 80 years old or very young, with all kinds of different levels of technological experience. And as long as you have an email address, we can pretty much get through that process with you and have documents signed electronically. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out. Happy to talk to you more about that and the different systems that we use. But it should be easy for you to sell property remotely or buy property remotely. It should not be hard, and we can definitely help you with that process. So as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next week. Aloha.